in the existence of a God, you hate Christianity, blah, blah, blah. But then just a couple of years before, claim you're their Messiah.
Well, he kind of explains all of that in some of his. I've quite a few of his books, and he thinks things were taken out of context, and he was also, he kind of explains it away, and I didn't think a whole lot about it one way or the other because I was more interested in the information he was putting forth.
Yeah, well, I would have thought the same thing, but you know what? His roommate, one of his roommates, college roommates, was in one of these forums. I was browsing through, and it's just all there. I mean, and plus hearing from this person, a friend of mine that lived in Europe at the time, and all of the stuff coming out, and everything that she had said was the same thing his roommate was saying. And so you have all these other people saying one thing, and then he's rejecting everything, probably just to save face. That's what I think. But either way, that's why I've always just kind of kept my distance from all that. I bring on this show who the Lord leads me to. I know people have screamed for me to bring Red Elk and other people on this show, and I refuse to. And yet he has led me twice now to have you on my show.
Well, holy mackerel.
And I would love to do an Aliens in the News show. We talked about this earlier. Last time we talked about, I had asked you to co-host that show.
Yeah.
And then I stopped doing it with that network. You knew how I felt about, there was things going on.
Yes.
I stopped doing that show totally. We both felt the same way about it.
Yeah.
And I had said if I ever do that show again, it will be with Steve at Reality Radio Network. I would run it with him. But I would love for you to co-host that show with me. It would just be awesome, I think.
Oh, well, I really appreciate that. I just don't think I can commit to doing that right now.
Yeah, you said you couldn't commit then. You said maybe I can do it once or twice a month or whatever,
Yeah, I would love to come on as a guest once in a while, and but I just am sitting here in front of this computer doing this. Well, you know how it is with the codes. It's like, oh my gosh. I get up usually 4 in the morning, and I get started. And I, make my recordings during the day, and then I sit there and listen and listen and listen, because I really want to know, because I really feel that I want to keep up to date on what their new plans are, what their new agendas are.
Yeah, and you really can't do anything else once you start that.
No.
That is a full-time job.
It is.
It's just like doing the Bible codes. It's a full-time job in itself. And then I'm doing 20 websites and everything else on the side. And it's crazy. And you're doing a UFO show.
Yeah, a UFO show. Plus, I have to work for a living.
Yeah. and see, I don't. I've lived in poverty for 10, 11 years. The Lord pays my bills, keeps me on the air.
That's great.
I went to college, but I've never worked. That makes a lot of sense.
Well, I think that's wonderful.
But he was just the one who put his foot down. I mean, he's had me doing this for years now, and now we can see how much close we are to just the end of time actually coming in our faces.
Yeah.
With this horseman ready to run in the apocalypse in March. This whole avian flu coming, because I was looking at it. What if this is a hoax? What if they're just trying to sell this Tamiflu because we found out that Rumsfeld owns the company that's producing this Tamiflu? They always make money on top of your misery and suffering and dying.
Yes, I know.
They're always making money off of it as well.
Yeah.
Rumsfeld owns the company.
Yeah, I know.
And so,
I'm sure they're planning to make a whole lot on this.
I don't know what they're going to do with all this money. They've bled this earth dry, raping it of all of its resources and every possible money you can think of. What are they going to do with all this money?
Well, one of the things I need to point out right now, though, is they really are, as a race, this race is becoming psychotic.
Yeah, well, becoming, they've been. Yeah.
They are going mad. I mean, they probably are mad. So they're very irrational. We think, why? What is this? But, for thousands of years, they have lived by torturing and tormenting, killing and raping this human race here.
Yeah.
Now, that in itself, but yet they have to put on this facade constantly of being, good guys and, caring and...
we want to help the earth. You want to come help your environment. Yeah. We want to give you new health technology to heal the people.
Right. And
they play both sides.
If every moment of your existence is hypocrisy...
Yeah, and see if you can say something to this, too. A lot of people think that there's different factions of these guys. Well, these are the bad guys, and these are the good guys. And I'm saying, look, folks, they all work together. There's no factions between them. They all work together.
That's right. Yeah, I think... I have thought in the past that there were some that were more malevolent, more vicious than others, and I won't go that far as to say no, that that's not so. But I will say that when the push comes to shove, they all cooperate. They're all on the same team.
Yep.
Now, I have heard that if somebody doesn't cooperate, if one of them doesn't cooperate, they get shipped off and get reprogrammed. I don't know if that's true or not. But
they just
essentially,
go for reassignment.
They go for reassignment. But essentially, they have to go along with the program or they're out of here. Now, you know what was really interesting? I downloaded a small clip from Kennedy where he talks about, ask not, this is John Kennedy, the former president, ask not what you can do for your country, ask what you can do,
ask what your country, don't, or something about, not what your country can do for you.
But that is that one, but what you can do for your country. It was very interesting to hear because he knew, in reverse, he talks about the violence that was coming up, but he was trying to not go along with this program,
right.
But he knew it was futile.
Yeah.
There was just so much of this entrenched, and he was, in his own way, I believe, he was trying to not do all these terrible things, but it was a slippery slope, and he knew in the end he was going to be killed because he wasn't going along with the program. And while I was recording this, as I said, I always get one of these aliens, reptilian aliens, talking on my tape recorder.
Right.
And sometimes they lie, and sometimes they actually say something that's probably true. And one of them said, "We had him shot." And I'm like, well, that's not surprising.
And we had him shot, they said?
Yeah, that's what he said. We killed him. We had him shot.
Yeah, well, you know what? He was going against the Vatican, and who controls the Vatican? The Dracos, the Draconians. That's Satan's seat on earth.
Yeah.
And he wanted to end the Vietnam War, and of course that was a big no-no because there was a Pope behind it to begin with. There was an alien agenda. The whole Vietnam War was an alien agenda.
Yes.
And I just had an interview with somebody. I was writing out email questions for an online interview. I have it posted on my website, and they asked me what I thought about the whole JFK thing. And basically the bottom line was he wasn't going to go along with their agenda.
No. And he was sacrificed. They had to get rid of him.
Interesting to hear you confirm that. Of course, you always end up confirming a lot of things that I'm saying.
Yeah.
But people that don't like me, that like you, maybe it'll sink in. There are a lot of people out there that don't like me. They'll listen to the show because you're on it. Well, and this show is heard globally. I mean, I have 100,000 downloads a month from people all over the world, and China is growing to be one of my biggest, fastest-growing audiences right now.
Wow.
And so this show is just huge globally. I probably have half of my listenership, only half of it is probably Americans. And the other half, the bulk, is becoming international.
Well, that's good. That's good to hear.
Yeah, and so it's out there. I mean, it's getting out there. But yeah, people were thrilled you were coming on the show.
Well, that's nice to hear.
I get tired of hearing me all the time, and to hear somebody else in a totally different area, because we don't even talk before the show. Really, we say, well, let's talk about this and this and this, and then that's it.
Right.
I never tell my guests unless I'll tell them what kind of audience to expect that I have.
Yes.
But I don't sit here and say, well, you can't talk about this and you can't say that. I don't have an agenda here. It's just to give out information.
Right.
So I could care less if somebody wants to come on here and criticize the government or praise, whatever. I don't tell people what they can and can't say.
Well, I think that's very good.
But I hardly have any guests either. I mean, I very rarely have a guest on this show.
Well, it's really difficult. I find and actually, I'm finding this is becoming more and more of a problem for me on the UFO show, because I'm expected to interview and be a host, and it's the guest who's the one that is supposed to be speaking. Yeah. But now I find that